Hello, lovely folks. I am back for round 2 of Icebreakers. Today, these 5 Icebreakers are super low prep, they're fun, and they get everybody talking. And if you haven't already checked out my top 7 Icebreaker video, please go watch that because there are some real goodies there. Okay, now let's go break some ice. If this is your first time here, hi, my name is Alexa Borota and I teach high school English, so I can validate that these 5 icebreakers totally work with students. I'm sharing all the goods with you right now. Anything less than best can go on TikTok. And just so you know, I did save the best for last, and I call it the best because I saved the one that students are always asking for all the time. I saved that one for last. My first icebreaker for you today is called Boss Battle. Here's what you need. All you need is a board, some markers, and every student needs a Post-it. There's zero pressure to get personal in this icebreaker. It can be used as a warm-up. It is truly super low prep. There's a little facilitation by the teacher, and it doesn't put students on the spot in terms of presenting unless they really want to speak to support their opinion. So here's how Boss Battle works. Put 2 scenarios or 2 groups of people or 2 people, 2 characters up on the board and let students decide who would win in a battle. In today's case, we have a mermaid with a trident versus a massive shark with supersonic speed. Who would win? Students just organically start to talk about who they would side with and why. In some classes, this debate actually gets pretty heated, and our third block of the day needed some water for all the fire. So after you have presented the scenario, give every student a Post-it and let them know you are only choosing one reason. Give me your best reason to support why you think so-and-so would win. When they're done, they just slap their Post-it on the board, have a seat, and eventually we start talking about their responses. It might feel silly, it might feel like very icebreaker-ish, but really when you start using words like, oh, counter-argument and rebuttal, evidence, this is really good practice for argumentative writing. There are really so many ways that you can incorporate this into your lesson where it's not just an icebreaker, but it's also preparing them for something they should know. And here's a tip, especially if you teach English language learners or you really need to add a little differentiation in there, add some visuals. Icebreaker number 2, agree or disagree. Here's what you need. You need 2 signs in your room, which can live there, by the way, all throughout the school year. One sign says agree, the other says disagree. Some pros of this activity are that students get moving. It gets them out of their seats, but not in a complicated way. I also suggest a pre-generated list of questions. I'll go ahead and show you mine. I keep this constantly on my clipboard in case I ever need to refer to it. You can, by the way, download this for free if you like from my Teachers Pay Teachers store. Use it tomorrow. Cons, it can get a bit redundant and boring, so make sure you limit your questions to no more than 5. End it while it's fun, not after it's gotten a little So have students stand as close to the middle of your room as possible. The more they are in a line, the better, because unless you have a very large room, it kind of just looks like they're hanging out of the boat. You don't know if they're in the boat, you don't know if they want to go for a swim, you don't know if they're just watching the view. So maybe have some painter's tape on the floor, some construction paper on the floor, and just say, stand please within this vicinity. Some students just always gotta complicate things. Ask them whatever questions benefit you in that moment. They could be silly questions. I always say, go for humor first. Who doesn't like to laugh? You could also get serious with this. If you are getting into a topic around revenge or gun violence or social justice or anything like that, you can ask those types of questions and they just stand to state whether or not they agree or disagree. Here are some sample questions. Pizza is a suitable breakfast option. Pajamas are acceptable attire for school. Amazing how many agree with this. Here's one of my favorites. Teachers should not be able to score a student anything less than a 50%. Wait till you hear what they have to say about that one. After they stand where they choose to stand, I highly suggest you allow some students to support their opinion. And you, as their teacher, try to keep your opinion at an all-time minimum. Try not to do the talking. They are going to say some things that's really going to make you, but just let them talk, because you will see that the more you start talking, the less they start talking. It's almost like every time you chime in, they feel like their answers are being judged. Just let them go. Zip it and quit it. Unless, of course, they ask you what you think. You let them know. Icebreaker number 3, create a class playlist. The only materials you need is a laptop, or students can even use their smartphones for this. The pros here are that students get to talk about something they love, which is music. And I feel like the second easiest thing for them to talk about is themselves, but students don't always want to talk about themselves during an icebreaker kind of activity. You also either need a YouTube account, Spotify account, or some type of account where you can create playlists of music for free. As a teacher, you don't really do anything. You don't really do anything except talk to students about music. Cons to this activity: some of the music that they choose to share is just a bit explicit. So you take that and do what you will with it, but it is something to watch out for. Here's how it works. Tell students that together you are going to create a class playlist that can be shared, that you can access at any time, and a playlist that can be listened to in class when the time is appropriate for there to be music playing in class. Next, give them some time to choose a song. Choose a song that they want to put on the playlist, and in addition to that, choose 30 seconds of that song that they would like to share with the class. So when it is their turn, they can share 30 seconds or 20 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever you like, of that song with the class, and then give them a chance to say something about it, why they like the song, what the song's about, whatever it is you want to do. But it's a very low pressure kind of presenting, and it just creates a lot of organic conversations. And with each song, you learn something about your students. One of your roles as a teacher is to create the playlist for them. So maybe you want to check their music first, make sure it's not explicit or too explicit, whatever your rules are. Check it, add it to a playlist so that immediately when they're done, you can provide either a QR code or a link to this playlist. I have used both a QR code from Spotify, or I will create a music playlist on my teacher YouTube channel, which not this Teaching with Alexa, but my real teacher YouTube channel, and I'll give the link for students to access that playlist at any time. Number 4 is something I've been doing a really long time with both my middle school students and my high school students, only I made one tweak to it this year. And does it really have a name? I'm just going to call it ball talk, or pass the ball around. It's actually a restorative justice practice. It's very simple and it's a great icebreaker. There are many ways to tweak this, but here's my suggestion. All you need is a ball. And I mean, students need chairs or a place to sit. Hey, if you've got a rug, good for you. Okay, the pros of this activity. Now I know that all of these build community, but this one in particular is a great, positive community builder. It is considered a restorative justice practice for a reason. By the way, they really need to change the restorative to proactive, or like change the name up, something like that, because it's up to you if you want to create a list of questions for this. I highly suggest a list of questions, but you don't need them. Cons to this could simply be that you don't have a lot of space in your classroom, but it could still be done even if you don't have a lot of space. It helps if you have some space, but if you don't, it's okay. And another con to this, if you have a super talkative student who has a hard time sitting still or just has to say something at all times, this can be difficult for students like that, so you might have to have a little talk with them privately before you do this. Here's how it works. Everybody sits in a circle. Now this is the tweak that I did this year. I never used to have students sit in a circle. I did it a completely different way. But our school has actually had us trying some new things this year. So I tried the circle. I put a timer on the board. I said, let's see if we can get in a circle around the room. I modeled how they should try to do it. And I put the timer on the board, and they did. They were all able to sit in a beautiful circle within a minute. I think that timer was key. Like, they saw it as a challenge. Next, I tell my students that there are only 2 rules. 1, only 1 person talks at a time. If you break this rule, you cannot participate. 1 student talks at a time. The second rule is that you cannot answer the question or answer the prompt, answer whatever it is, until you have received the ball. And the ball just gets passed in a circle, so everybody can go. As a way to not put too much pressure on students, keep it short. You can keep it to a 1-word answer or just a really short answer. One of the questions that I was asked this year that I then turnkeyed to my students, and they answered this question easily. Even my more shy students answered this question with no problem. That question was, what is different about this year compared to last year? So they would state something that was different, and then some of them, many of them, went on to kind of talk about what last year was like versus what this year is like. And I want to say that 100% of what they said was positive. But even if it's not positive, they're still talking, you're still connecting, everyone's respecting each other. Other ideas include one way that I've changed the last year, or something I really like about myself is you could just have them go around the room and say what time they left for school in the morning or what time did they go to bed. It's just pass the ball around in a circle. Everybody goes. It's very intentional and everyone is very intently listening to who is speaking. All right, number 5, my friends, is the winner chicken dinner. I have students in every single class ask me, especially on a Friday, can we play hot seat? Now, you can do this your own way, but here's how I do it. What you need is a slideshow of words. I'm giving you something free that you can use on my Teachers Pay Teachers. It's not the best, but it's free and it's a starting point and you can add to it, manipulate it however you want. And I mean, you need a seat and a timer. It is highly engaging. It's competitive and requires teamwork. It can get loud. Sometimes we have classes where students are like afraid to talk to each other. They just don't really want to speak for whatever reason. This is great for a class like that. Check out this TikTok that I made. I feel like it sums up HOTSEAT very nicely. It's called HOTSEAT. Here's how I played. So I divided my class into 2 teams and one person from each team, they would take turns sitting in the hot seat. They have a seat and behind them I display words. I only incorporated this game today with the intention of getting everyone talking to each other. This can easily be applied as a review game to any content area, any grade level. Their team will say whatever they need to say to try to get them to guess the word. However, they cannot use the words on the cannot say list. Icebreakers should be distributed, like sprinkled in throughout. I mean, even today I did this boss battle. I've had my students for 2 months now. We didn't need an icebreaker, but it keeps up the momentum. Be sure to subscribe for more.